I'm from Green Energy Options, and this is, if I can get this working, is what I'm going to talk to you about. But before I do that, I thought I might tell you a little bit about who we are. As you said, Paddy and I founded the business about 4 years ago to make energy visible to the users of energy, be they be in homes, at work, or in schools. To that end, we design and manufacture energy display systems, and we are now an established Cambridge business. We shifted something like 750,000 displays in the last 12 months. We have something like 7 different displays in our portfolio at the moment, and another dozen or so, half a dozen or so in production at the moment, or in design. But anyway, why have we been so successful? Partly we would like to think it's because we try and keep in touch with the markets. We started off with market research, quite a lot of high-value market research, courtesy of East of England Development Agency, if anybody's here. That was very worthwhile. We followed that up by doing a number of field trials on our own account, and increasingly now in conjunction with other partners. And indeed, there has been other research which has been going on. So the Energy Saving Trust has done a very interesting study of the visual display units which are out there, and came out with saying that analog is much more important than digital, and we actually have used quite a lot of analog in our displays. So that's great. It means that everybody's now following us, so we have to think of something different to do now to keep ahead of the market, but at least it's moving in the right direction. So anyway, enough about Geo. What I want to talk about in the next 10 minutes, is it now I have, is about the market rather than about ourselves. So first thing I would say is that we hear a lot about displays, and to us there are 2 very different types of displays. They give direct and indirect feedback. So this is the first one we talk about, push displays giving direct feedback. They are simple, always on devices. They're like the clock on the wall. You notice them as you go past. Oh, is that the time? I've only got 10 minutes left to speak. It triggers something in your brain. We need something exactly the same in the energy environment. Oh, is that on? Why is the heating on at the moment? I should be switching it off. Things like that. So simple, very informative, as long as you get the format right, and that's where we think that the analog works. And just as I talk about analog, if you get something which says, for example, your kettle does 2.9 kilowatts, great. So what? Try the so what test on some of these things after a period of time. Now, if you see 2.9 kilowatts on a dial, which therefore gives you an idea of whereabouts on that dial, therefore is it high, low, medium, or what, you get a whole lot more information at that glance. And it's simple things like that, which is what we try to do as a business. The second type of displays then are indirect feedback, or what we call pool displays. This requires you to go to get the information. And so something has to trigger you to do it, because we don't believe that you will do that regularly. I think we were talking about being in your face 7 times a day or something in the morning session. So what is it that's going to make you go to your TV or computer 7 times a day? Well, actually, I don't think it's going to be that many. It's the push display that will do that. But these things do work together. You've got to have something to go and look at to get more information to understand what is going on. So there's a role for both of these. Now, one of those displays is, in fact, the mobile phone. I'll talk about the mobile phone revolution here. We all have our apps that come out here. It's great that you can do these apps and so on. And for us, it's great because it means that we can get our DNA into a lot more places very quickly. And we tend to talk about the car and use the car as the analogy. So that's the speedometer for us. It tells you how fast your house is going, which is very easy for people to understand because it's similar to how fast your car is going. And then we have the mileometer, which tells you how far you've driven today, or at least how much energy you used today. We have a fuel tank, which is on there, another concept which they use. And actually, we will be going into controls, because actually what you want to do is be able to control something. But that control is in 2 parts. One is about the engine management system, and increasingly we buy cars now with engine management systems. We don't worry about it. In fact, we kind of expect there to be one, but it happens under the bonnet. I think there will be things in homes which happen under the bonnet. but you will have a very simple control on it, which says I want to go into sports driving mode at the moment because I want to show off. Or in the home, I actually want to go into entertaining mode because I want to show off my home and I go to that end. So there will be that sort of thing that comes into it. But the interesting thing about this is it still needs something in the home to give you that information. And the question is, how do you get the consumers to buy that equipment in the first place? Because a lot of these things, they kind of expect them to be free. Google's free. The iPhone app is £1.99. It's cheap, it's inexpensive. Actually, it's equipment in the home that is expensive. And how do you get them doing that in the first place? And we feel that you have to have something in the home, like the push display, to trigger the whole thing going. So the push display is the starting point. So, great ideas. Where did it all come from? Let me go through some of the research that we have done here. So this was our original market research. It was supposed to build, but we'll have to take the final answer because that's the important thing. And what that said to us is that customers actually want at-a-glance information. They do also want to dig down into the micro detail at the appropriate time, and they want it to be presented in a simple, easily understood way. All fairly obvious to us now, 4 years on, but at the time that actually defined the way that we go and why we have so many different systems. Then we went into doing some field trials at 275 homes around East Anglia. Been running for a year now. It costs us quite a bit of money to do. We've learned a huge amount of it. There's nothing like getting things out into homes to find out what goes wrong, as well as what goes right. I'm very pleased to say high levels of satisfaction with the displays. We've got 3 different types of displays there. So 2 push type displays, which give you very simple at-a-glance information. And then the Trio is a computer-based display, which gives you a lot more information there. And what you will see when you look at the daily usage is what we thought was happening coming through. So people are using the simple push displays very regularly, whereas the pull display, 28% people use it once a day. In fact, when we talk to them and we do qualitative research as well, we find they use the push display far more often. That's when they actually go up to the display and interrogate it. They're actually catching sight of it at the corner of their eyes at a glance several times a day. And the tick in the cross there, which is about the fuel tank and whether they're on budget or not, is what they call the nag factor. And that's what makes it sticky. That's what changes it from an RTD, what was it, return to draw, into something which people are still using, still engaging with a year later. Actually, another thing that makes them do that is the backlight. We think backlight is very important because it makes it much easier to see it. Other things from this research, interestingly, the changes in behaviour, the duet there has the best results. Why? Because actually they can see what it is that is causing the problem. So it's not enough just to see that the whole house is using a lot of electricity. What they want to see also is, well, what is it? And what is it at a glance so that they can then go and react to it. What about the pull-through here, as I call it? What are the effects on other things? Because actually these displays themselves do not save any energy. What they do is trigger people to go and take actions that does. So some of that is about changing behaviour, some of that is avoiding leaving things on overnight, wastage, and some of that is about going out and buying new bits of kit, like low-energy light bulbs. And even in our trials, people have started to consider insulation of the homes, even though it's only electricity we're talking about. And the one I like most of all is that one about increasing their level of confidence. When we started out to try and build the market. And to build the market, you actually have to give people confidence that they understand energy and they can enter into that market. And so how can you do that? This is what I call a leading measure. And so we feel very pleased that we've started to give people that confidence to start to engage in this market, which means that they'll start to making these purchasing decisions, and that will drag on into other things. Sorry. So, those are the conclusions that we came to, and the sales point is at the end. What do displays do for us? going to change tack a little now, just for the final little bit. Everybody's got some form of pie chart here around this, but what I wanted to talk about here is about the other things in the home. The elephant in the room, to use that cliche. We're all talking about electricity. Smart grid tends to talk about electricity most of the time. Actually, gas heating is by far the biggest problems. And what do we do about that? If we believe, as we do, that it's about consumer engagement, then we have a problem, because gas and electricity smart meters will generally only give one reading a day. That is not enough to engage the consumer. How on earth do we get around that? But why does it only give one reading a day? Yes, it's about a 15-year battery life, but I think it's actually about entrenched old thinking. It's about utilities not wanting to serve as a customer. It's about fit and forget. Put it in there, 15 years, don't have to involve it. But everybody who has gas has a gas boiler. Everybody who has a gas boiler has that maintained. So why doesn't the main person who maintains the gas boiler fit a new battery? So why do we have to continue for the next 50 years with the way that we have continued in the last 50 years? We really, really should take this opportunity at the moment to look also, not only at electricity, but look at real-time information for gas metering and also water metering with the drought in Lancashire, of all places. So, is it too late to challenge this thinking? So these are my conclusions. Push displays are important. We think it's where the market starts. Pull displays, though, are also important. It's where a lot of the value comes from, it's where the service comes from, and it's where a lot more can be done. And actually the smartphone is fantastic. It offers a great opportunity. It doesn't work for everyone, but it's going to get to a market which we haven't been able to get to before. And please don't let's forget about the other meters. That's all. Thank you.